This is Android Basics, in which we bring you up to date on the things that you should know to use your Android phone.
Now we move on to our Android Basics section, and John brings us the next episode in our look at One UI settings, and this week it's emergency settings.
Hello, welcome back to our Samsung One UI series. Today we're going to be looking at safety settings, and more specifically,
Safety and emergency, medical info, wireless emergency alerts.
I'm going to open it up.
Safety and emergency. Navigate up button.
And the first thing we have in this section is
Medical info.
I'm going to go in here.
Medical info. Navigate up button. Record your allergies, current medication, and other medical information so it's available in an emergency.
So this is the type of information you can have available on your lock screen if you choose to. So that if somebody can get a hold of your phone in an emergency, they'll have all your medical information. Obviously, this is all optional, but here's the type of information you can have in there.
Name header, heading. Medical conditions header, heading. Blood type header, heading. Allergies header, heading. Current medications header, heading. Weight header, heading. Height header, heading. Date of birth header, heading. Address header, heading. Organ donor header, heading. Medical notes header, heading.
And then at the bottom, we just have two buttons.
Cancel button.
Cancel and save.
Save button.
I'm going to hit cancel.
Cancel button. Safety and emergency. Medical info.
And then next we have
Emergency contacts.
emergency contacts.
Emergency contacts. Emergency contacts are people you trust to help you in an emergency. They'll be contacted if you start emergency sharing. You can also show them on the lock screen for quick access in an emergency. Ashley Dyer.
Then here's who you have as your emergency contacts.
Add emergency contact button.
You can add more.
On show on lock screen switch.
You can choose whether to show it on lock screen or not. The one thing I will mention about this is it's not exactly intuitive. So if you want somebody to be able to pick up your phone and call your emergency contact for you, first of all, you're going to have TalkBack on. And if somebody sighted tries to use your phone, they're just plain not going to be able to figure it out. And also, what you have to do is swipe up and then you have to hit emergency call before you can even find the emergency contact. And I think that kind of makes it seem like they're going to be directly calling 911 if they press that emergency call button. So I think the likelihood of somebody figuring out how to call your emergency contact without calling 911 on your phone, when they could just call 911 on their phone, or whatever your emergency number is in your country or region, is very unlikely. So, but it's here if you want to turn it on, just in case. I'm not recommending that you don't, but just letting you know how it works. I'm going to back out of here.
Safety and emergency. Emergency contacts.
Next.
Emergency SOS. Emergency SOS. Navigate up button.
And here's what it says.
Press the side button 5 times in an emergency to call for help. You can change the emergency number below or keep it if it's right for your location.
Now, this used to let you turn this on and off, but apparently you can't do that anymore. So don't accidentally press the button 5 times. Although you can set it to not call your emergency services, but an emergency contact, which would be a little less embarrassing.
Require swipe to call after you press the side button 5 times. You'll need to swipe the call button on the screen to call your emergency number. Off switch.
And you can make it require that you swipe after you press the button 5 times, which I'm going to do that.
On.
So that it doesn't ever happen by accident. And next we have
Emergency number to call.
That's where you would put who your emergency contact is, whether it be your significant other, a parent, so on, so forth. Next,
Send SOS to emergency contacts off switch.
and this is whether or not you want SOS sent, which these are the settings we're going to go into in the next section. So if you want the next section to apply, this is the switch you would turn on. Backing out.
Safety and emergency. Emergency SOS. Emergency sharing.
Emergency sharing.
Emergency sharing. Navigate up button. Share your location and other info with your emergency contacts to let them know you need help.
And here are the options you have.
Messages won't be sent if you've reached the message limit imposed by the country or region you're in. Share with heading. Emergency contacts, Ashley Dyer.
You could choose the emergency contacts.
Share your surroundings heading.
And here's the share your surroundings section and the options under it.
Attach pictures. Take pictures with the front and rear cameras and include them in your messages off switch. Attach audio recording. Record 5 seconds of audio and include it in your messages off switch. Start emergency sharing button.
And that's the button to turn it on. I'm backing out now.
Safety and emergency. Emergency sharing.
Next we have.
Silence notifications while driving.
I'm not even going to go in here, but this is pretty self-explanatory, and I think it does not apply for most of us. I hope nobody listening to this podcast would be driving, but what this will do is it'll use your phone sensors to automatically detect if you're in a vehicle and silence your phone, which I don't think any of us really want to happen. So the next section.
Emergency location service.
I'm not going to go in here either because we covered this last week in location. This is whether or not you want your phone to send your location information to emergency services when you make an emergency call. Like I mentioned last week, even if you have this turned off, it's very possible that your carrier will send your location information for you anyway when you make an emergency call. Again, that depends on your carrier and how they operate in your region. Next.
Wireless emergency alerts.
Let's go in here.
Wireless emergency alerts. Navigate up button. Allow alerts on switch.
There's a global switch for whether you want any alerts at all. And then below you could choose which type of alerts you want.
Alerts heading. National alerts, national warning messages. Can't be turned off on switch disabled. Extreme threats to life and property on switch. Severe threats to life and property on switch. Amber alerts, child abduction emergency bulletins on switch. Public safety messages, recommended actions that can save lives or property on switch. State and local tests, receive test messages from state and local authorities off switch. Emergency alert history.
And then you can go in here for the history. So if you want to look back on an alert you've received recently, you can go in here. I'll just show you what that's like.
Wireless emergency alerts. Emergency alert history. Child abduction, Amber Alert, February 11, 12:56 p.m. Visp Amber Alert, Elijah Jones.
So I'm not going to let it read the whole thing, but that's just an example. That's the last alert I received.
Wireless emergency alerts. Emergency alert history.
Next we have
Alert preferences, heading. Vibration on switch. Alert reminder never.
So you can have it remind you if you did not dismiss the notification when it first happened.
Spanish, receive emergency alerts in Spanish when possible off switch.
It's giving me the option to choose Spanish. Obviously, depending on your region, these settings are going to be a little different.
Speak alert message, use text to speak wireless emergency alert messages off switch.
This is off because I always have TalkBack on, so if you're low vision and you don't always keep TalkBack on, maybe you want to consider turning this on in the settings so that even if TalkBack is not on, it'll still read it out loud to you. Okay, that's all for this section. I'm going back to the main section now.
Safety and emergency. Wireless emergency alerts.
Next we have
Earthquake alerts.
earthquake alerts. Self-explanatory. You can choose whether or not to receive these. And obviously it only applies to areas where you have this system in place.
Unknown tracker alerts.
Then unknown tracker alerts. Let's go in here.
Unknown tracker alerts. Navigate up button. When alerts are on, you'll get a notification if an unknown tracker is detected traveling with you. Alerts are deleted after 48 hours.
Now, I don't know what trackers this applies to, if it's only Samsung smart tags. I know Google and Apple have agreed to start working together so that you can't track somebody with an Android tracker on iOS and you can't track somebody with an AirTag on Android. Whether or not Apple has implemented this yet or not, I don't know, but whatever it is implemented, this is where you can choose whether or not you want those alerts. If there's an AirTag near you that you obviously don't own because you're not an iOS user. And then below this we have
How unknown tracker alerts work.
an explanation, but I think I just explained it. So, that was the last setting in the safety section. So thank you for listening and stay safe. And I'm going to send it back to the crew now.
So I have to ask this, folks. Who has had an accidental repeated button press emergency call incident? Anyone done this?
I have definitely done this. I blame having different phones all the time. Like I forget which button is which. I think I did it on a OnePlus phone because they had the volume buttons on the left side and I'm used to the volume on the right side. So I was trying to turn down my volume really quick and I'm just pressing it. And yeah, it called emergency services. And I was like, I almost hung up and I was like, I better not. I'll just explain what happened so they don't send somebody to check on me.
Was the dispatcher understanding?
Yeah, I think it happens a lot, honestly.
Yeah. I did it once. I was in a bar and it made that really loud siren noise before it connected. This was in the days of a previous operating system. Happily, I heard it. I was trying to toggle on and off voiceover, but didn't wait long enough.
Yeah, I think the siren was the problem for me. Like I couldn't hear TalkBack to like know, like how do I cancel this call?
Yeah.
So
I think I just waved my phone at someone. I was going, make it stop. Yeah. Have you ever done that, Austin? You emergency called anybody?
Yeah, I did on my Pixel phone. Like I was trying to do something. I don't know what. The power button was not working or something, and I pressed it 5 times. And it in India there is some IVR service, so you don't get connected to a dispatcher. You are asked options whether you want the police, the fire brigade, the medical emergency, and all those things. So as they picked up the phone, I just cut it because it's all computerized.
Ah, yeah. Oh, that's one good thing, I suppose. You can safely cut it off. What about you, Karine?
No, I didn't do it. In fact, I was checking the number that will be called, and it is the police number here. So I don't want to have a trouble with police, actually. So it's good I didn't do it.
No, unless you're having your Ukhdud pulled, of course, in which case you probably would call.
Yeah, of course. So you should be careful.
And what about you, Yanak? Have you done it, Sally, or not? Have you?
Well, it also happened to me. Like I was playing with my phone around 1 a.m. in the night, and like my power button like got stuck when I was using S21 FE. So it called, and with a high volume of siren, I couldn't hear TalkBack to turn it off. And finally I was able to end the call, and I was going to sleep after 30 minutes. They called me back saying, "What's going on?"
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like John's right. If it happens, try and stay on, unless you get a computer.
Yeah, what I've actually done with this in the Samsung settings, it lets you change your emergency number. So I just set it to myself, my own phone number. So
Yeah.
if I accidentally do it, it'll just call voicemail. So hopefully I won't actually need it.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be a bit stuck. Yeah. One of the things that's quite annoying, just moving it onto a different bit of emergency settings, on the emergency alerts, my carrier keeps turning my setting back on. I don't know which carrier it is either, because I have 2 SIMs in my phone for 2 different networks for kind of reception contingency and data reasons. But I'll occasionally get a message going, your carrier has changed your emergency alert settings. And I go back in and they're all enabled again after I've turned them off. It's quite frustrating.
Yeah, why even let you turn them off? They're just gonna turn
Yeah.
back on.
It's quite annoying. Maybe if I'd bought a phone from the carrier, it wouldn't let me. Maybe they've done something to it, but because I've just put the SIMs in an unlocked one, I'm not sure. Quite tedious though. And how does the emergency sharing work? Like if you do want to send an emergency message, do you do that on the lock screen?
Yeah, it's the same. Pressing the buttons 5 times will trigger it, but it'll also send it'll record a short video clip and send it to whoever you specified as your emergency contact.
Yeah. Recording the audio is not very helpful if that siren's going off, is it?
Yeah, I think the siren is just a warning to let you know all this stuff's going to happen. So after the siren stops is when it
It'll
starts
do it.
recording. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a bit silly otherwise.
Mm-hmm.